Now we're going to talk about possibly our favorite rookie that we talk about every Sunday, sometimes Saturday, sometimes Monday, Tuesday, every day of the week. I feel like we talk about
We
this.
got a lot of time on our hands.
We are going to talk about Emeka Egbuka. Now, Emeka Egbuka, there's no really sugarcoating it. The guy has been an absolute stud. He has been great. We've seen him, whatever, he was dealing with injuries. He was dealing with injuries recently, but he looks good now. He's healthy going into this next game as well. But I feel like Emeka Egbuka, very similar to somebody else we were talking about, has like the perfect storm of everything just working out for him to have this successful of a rookie season. Again, there has been no doubt of it. I haven't been a huge supporter of the guy in the past. Baker Mayfield is playing like one of the best quarterbacks in football. The offense is very high octane. For a lot of these weeks, he has been the number one option when Mike Evans going in and out of the lineup. Godwin again having his situation. And I feel like originally when we were talking about Emeka Egbuka, we were comparing him a lot to Lad McConkey. When you have these guys, and JSN as well, when you have these guys that prioritize a lot of their routes in the slot and run seamless routes and are able to get separation, we see them translate to the NFL nearly right away. Like it was the same thing with Lad McConkey last year. JSN looked really good early in his career as well. And I feel like the slot has opened up for him with Chris Godwin being in and out. And I feel like he has been able to consume a lot of the targets with Mike Evans being in and out. And he looks like an absolute star from day one. And I talked about it this week with Carnell Tate as well. I feel like a lot of people in this Ohio State offense, again, and it's going to be the 3 years that Jeremiah Smith is at Ohio State, they are like looking at him solely because that guy is just a generational talent. But they don't realize necessarily how great some of the other players are in this roster because they, again, aren't getting the opportunity of a wide receiver one in college. They had 3 wide receiver ones last year. They had 2 guys that we just mentioned in Travion Henderson and Quinshon Junkins. Like, the team is absolutely loaded, but you don't realize how great some of these ancillary pieces are to Jeremiah Smith because they aren't getting just this tremendous amount of work. But Emeka Egbuka, again, I think he went to the right offense for him. There were a little bit of questions in the beginning because you had Mike Evans, you had Chris Godwin, you had Buck Irvin, you had a lot of these weapons. Again, we liked the player in Emeka Egbuka. We weren't necessarily 100% sure on the fit if he was going to be eased in with all these weapons, if they necessarily needed him based on everything they had on offense. But there's no doubt that he's an absolute stud, that they made the right pick. He's been arguably the best player in this whole entire draft right now, going into this point in the NFL season. And again, he looks like the guy that's going to take over for Mike Evans when his time is done for the next 10 years in Tampa Bay. And again, it's the product, again, of him being a great player, but also him being in this offense. And to be quite honest, it also helps as well that everybody in this receiver room has looked great. Even a guy like Sterling Shepard has looked pretty good in moments. Ted Johnson has looked really good in moments. Again, a guy that I thought went way too late as well. So this offense has a lot of pieces. They have a really great quarterback, and the play calling is like, again, it's diverse play calling. It's play calling that takes a lot of chances. And Baker Mayfield likes to throw the football more than anybody. So the opportunity for him has been great, and he has looked phenomenal.
Yeah, he's been awesome. He's been awesome. And yeah, I mean, I remember because we were together to watch the draft, and yeah, we liked the prospect, but at the same time, you were adding to a position group that was a massive strength. And I thought there were other areas they could have addressed, but now how the season is played out, I mean, where would they be without Egbuka? Mike Evans, of course, earlier in the year, the hamstring injury, he comes back, and now broken clavicle and a concussion, and now he's going to be out for pretty much the rest of the regular season. Could be back for the playoffs. It was really tough to see that. And then Chris Godwin, his injury last year, and then he comes back this year, played a couple games, and then he was out again. So, that's only, and Egbuka, of course, he dealt with his hamstring injury, but he was able to play on Monday. But he has really produced. On Monday night, it was a tough game for Tampa, but there were some throws that, Baker, overthrew and underthrew. There was one that Egbuka was behind the defense. That would have been a walk-in touchdown if Baker, was able to hit him on that. And you mentioned the separation. I mean, this guy is a really good receiver, and he comes from a college that produces those kinds of players. So that, I mean, it's almost like they kind of knew. Well, obviously with Godwin out at the beginning of the year, and also Mike Evans has dealt with injuries pretty much every year. So it was like they knew, like, hey, we gotta take this guy because we got some receivers in this room that are a little bit older that maybe we can't bank on them playing a whole season. And they don't want to have a repeat of what happened last year because they didn't have Egbuka. I mean, they at least had Jalen McMillan, who's another guy that we really haven't talked about because he had the neck injury in the preseason, and hopefully they get him back soon. He's still in a neck brace from what I've been reading, but you get him back, and you got Egbuka, and then Tez Johnson, the guy that was taken in, right? He was taken in the 7th round. Yeah, so I mean, they got potentially a trio of 3 young receivers for the future. So you got to like what Tampa did there. So I think they're definitely better equipped. As we move along in the season here, with Godwin being hurt, now Mike Evans being hurt, because now you got these young guys that you could rely upon that you didn't necessarily have last year. And Tampa was still able to figure it out when they got Mike Evans back, at least, and they were able to still win the division. So, but yeah, I've been really impressed with what Egbuka has done. He is up there for Offensive Rookie of the Year. And just hopefully he could shake this hamstring injury, and Tampa hopefully bounces back. They do have a get-right game against the Saints this week, but obviously divisional games could be interesting at times. So we'll see how Tampa looks from here on out. But Egbuka has been very good.
Yeah, again, and you see, like, again, with what Tampa Bay done with this pick, and like you alluded to, the success Ohio State had, it was really just like one of those things, I guess, for Tampa Bay where it was no brainer, best player available pick. Like we said, with the receiving core they had, their receiving core is so strong, but they were clearly taking the guy that they could bank on that would be a success, no matter how the fit is, no matter what they have as a team. And again, he's panned out right away for them. The other receivers, like you said, McMillan, Ted Johnson, they look pretty good as well. Ted Johnson, again, in the 7th round, I just thought very similar to, again, what the Giants did with Cam Scatterby. You're taking a guy so late in an NFL draft where they were one of the best players in college football last year. Sometimes I feel like we tend to like overthink things and find this diamond in the rough, or just, we need this fit. Let's get this player. But again, long term, the best option is taking the best player available. And Tampa Bay seems to do that. They look really good. And like you said, they're going to lean on him even more with Mike Evans now probably being out for the year, I guess. And then, again, they're going to need him for sure when Bucky Irvin comes back too. At least that will help them a little bit. But he's definitely going to step into that number 1 role a lot sooner than we expected.